Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy. If you're looking to expand your pool service or get support out in the field, or if you just want one-on-one coaching, join my coaching program with over 270 members and growing. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hey, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over what I consider to be the best variable speed pool pump. I don't really have a platform to collect votes, nor do I have any kind of award ceremony, but I will give you my opinion of the best variable speed pool pump for 2024, entering the 2025 season. If you're looking to expand your pool service or get support out in the field, or if you just want one-on-one coaching, join my coaching program with over 270 members and growing. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com. And the winner is, it depends. And that's really the truth of it. You can't really say one variable speed pump is better than another one for a number of reasons. There are a lot of variables. It's just like saying, what's the best truck out there or what's the best car out there? There are so many different aspects of the variable speed pumps, almost not quite as much as how many different car or truck manufacturers are out there, but there are a lot of factors to consider. And I think I'll just focus on some of the main points, and then you're going to have to decide which is the best variable speed pump for your particular needs. And I'll go with one of my first criteria, and that is, does it match the current pool equipment pad? This is really important for a number of reasons besides aesthetic looks. I mean, putting a Hayward VS pump in a Pentair pad, yes, you're going to have one black pump in there, but they also own Stay Right, so you can easily get a Stay Right pump to replace your Pentair pump, since it's the same manufacturer. However, you would want to keep it consistent looking as far as color schemes, but as far as communication, the Stay Right and Pentair pumps will communicate with the Pentair automation. So here is a reason why I think it's really important to match the equipment pad, and that is because you're looking for compatibility and future upgradability. Now, it just depends on what you already have existing there. So if you have, let's say, a Jandy Aqualink panel, fine, I would say go with the Flow Pro VS pump. You probably already have a Jandy pump in there. If you have a Pentair Easy Touch, IntelliTouch, or IntelliCenter, go with the Pentair VS pump because it's going to communicate directly with the current automation that's there. If you have a Hayward Goldline automated system, go with the Hayward pump because it's going to communicate directly with that system. With that said, it's just logical to pick a variable speed pump that's going to match your existing equipment pad or your plans for a future upgrade. So let's say you have a Pentair filter, Pentair heater, maybe Intelliflo salt cell, and you have a Pentair Whisper Flow pump, but you don't have a VS pump, or you may even have a VS pump, maybe Intelliflo, and you want to upgrade to something else, and you don't have automation, but you're thinking about getting automation later. You want to get, an automated system, and you're probably going to go with Pentair because all your equipment is Pentair. It makes logical sense to put a Pentair automated system there. Well, I would suggest going with a Pentair VS pump, keeping your current Pentair configuration because you're going to have an automated system in the future that's going to be Pentair, and there's no reason to kind of put another VS pump there. That's why at the beginning I said it really depends on a lot of factors, and one factor is basically your current equipment blend. Now, I'm not going to say that the Pentair VS pump is the best. There's different categories of Pentair pumps. I'm going to touch on another criteria in a moment that's going to kind of peel away some layers there of the different pumps that are available. So I'm not saying that a Pentair pump is superior to a Hayward or a Jandy or even an independent branded pump. I'm just saying it's a logical choice to go with Pentair if you have a Pentair system already there. Now, what's the best pump? Well, I mean, it just depends on what you're actually looking for and what you need. And I think those are also some categories that need to come into play when you're picking the best variable speed pump for your particular needs. And that's the key here. Yes, there's going to be a pump that's above and beyond everyone else. I would definitely say the Pentair Intelliflo 3 is one of the top VS pumps out there, but you're paying over $2,000 for it, $2,500 for this pump. It's a beast of a pump as well, 3 total horsepower, plus it's got a lot of head pull, so it's definitely a really powerful pump. But it'd be like me saying, yeah, you can get the best truck of 2024 is the Ford F-250 Lariat, which is $90,000. But if you have a Ford Mavic, you may like it. It's going to get the job done and do everything you need to do, and you're paying, a third of the price of what you would pay for that particular truck. So it's not something that is out of the realm of thinking that your budget is also a factor, and also a need-based. You don't really need a 3 horsepower, total horsepower pump in a lot of cases, and that's probably overkill in a lot of cases to get the Intelliflo 3 VS pump compared to something else. So let me just break down some categories here. And I guess since I'm talking about Pentair, I'll stick with this particular category so you kind of get an idea that your budget also is a factor. For instance, if you have a WhisperFlow pump right now, you may want to just swap it out for a WhisperFlow variable speed pump or WhisperFlow VSP pump, because basically the WhisperFlow is going to fit in the same spot where your other one's at. So you can just cut out the old WhisperFlow or take the unions off and put this new one in. It has a really nice control panel that matches the Pentair SuperFlow pump. And by the way, I really like the Pentair SuperFlow VS. It's my go-to pump because of the ease of installation and the really nice control panel on the back that's really easy to operate. Plus now you can connect it to automation, which is something that you couldn't do in the past. It also has dual voltage ability, and they beef up the horsepower a little bit, so it's no longer 1.5. I think it's closer to 2 horsepower. Not a big deal, but I think it's great. It's a great pump, and it's like $1,000 or right around $1,000. So it's about half the price of the Intelliflo 3 VS pump. Is it good enough? Yes, it's good enough. Is it reliable? Yes, it's reliable. Is it something that I would sell every day? I would sell that pump every day. Would I sell a customer this over a Pentair Intelliflo 3 VS? Probably, because of the price point and what you actually need in the VS pump. As far as reliability, the big 3, they use all of the same manufacturers. I believe all the people that make the drives for the pumps are the same, but don't quote me on that. I know that at one point Pentair and Hayward were using the same manufacturer for their drives. And the motors are usually made by Century Motors, so you're going to find a Century motor on a lot of these pumps. So if you have a Pentair Intelliflo or WhisperFlow or a Hayward or a Jandy, the motor company that is probably going to manufacture the actual motor would be Century or A.O. Smith. It just depends on the pump manufacturer, but you're going to find that they're going to be the same motor, maybe the same drive manufacturer. They're going to look different, of course. The drive is actually the brain of the VS pump. Each one's a little bit different as far as features. If you're looking for one that I think is easy to operate and one that I like a lot is the Jandy Flow Pro Speed Set. I like the Speed Set controller. It's got a dial on there, so it's very easy to operate and control it. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you would have in the Pentair Intelliflo 3 VS pump color LED screen, but to me it's sufficient. It's big, large, easy to read, and a great control panel. Now, if you're going for features like that, then of course crossing over logically, depending on your pad again, would be something to consider. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I would cross over to a Jandy Flow Pro Speed Set if you have a WhisperFlow pump and a Pentair system with an easy touch panel, maybe, that you would want to go with the Intelliflo 3 VS or maybe the Pentair WhisperFlow VS. I think if you're looking for the ease of control, of course the Pentair Intelliflo 3 would be great, and it would be a comparable pump because you don't really need to run it at the full 3 horsepower, total horsepower. Of course, you have access to the 3 horsepower if you do need it, but there's no need to use it. So if you have plenty of resources, in other words, if you don't have a budget to worry about, then by all means get the best VS pump in each category. If you have a Hayward system, get the TriStar 2.7 VS pump, and it's really something that you're going to enjoy and you're going to like the pump because it's the top of the line pump that they make. Now, interesting enough, Hayward actually has the lowest rated energy use pumps out there, they use a WEP number, which is the factor of how much energy they conserve. And Hayward actually has the most energy efficient VS pumps out there in the market. Although if you ever have a Hayward pump priming at 3450 RPMs, it's quite loud. Sometimes it can actually vibrate a lot. It's a pretty powerful pump, the TriStar VS pump. But they're a great pump. I don't think that the new Hayward pumps are what I would consider a bad VS pump. They did have a problem several years ago or a few years ago with some bad drives. That has been rectified. So Pentair and Hayward and Jandy all make really good VS pumps. It just depends on what your needs are. So if you have a Jandy Aqualink, I definitely would highly 100% recommend getting a Jandy Flow Pro Speed Set pump for your pool. And if you are one of the small percentage that have, at least in California, Jandy and Hayward are in the small percentage. I would say Pentair dominates here. There's like 90% of the equipment pads are Pentair. So I really have no problem with the Pentair pumps. Again, I would pick the pump based on your budget and what your needs are. So in a lot of cases, the Superflow VS or the Whisperflow VS would be perfectly fine Pentair VS pumps to put on your Pentair pad. And if you have a Jandy pad, of course, the Flow Pro Speed Set would be great. Now, if you're building something from scratch, let's say that you are getting rid of your old equipment, maybe your pool is being remodeled and you really want to start fresh, this is where you're really going to have to do some research and really dig into what you want to put into your equipment pad. Do you like the Jandy Aqualink system? Do you like the Pentair system? Do you like the Hayward system? I would say if I'm ranking those based on like a new pad build, I would put Jandy and Pentair near the top. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I do like both. They're both great systems. So I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. I would give the edge to Jandy because I like the True Clear salt cell better than the Pentair salt cell. So if you were going to say you wanted to go with a new heater, a new salt system, a new pump, and a new filter, I would kind of lean towards Jandy because, again, I do like the True Clear system better. I think they make a really good heater too, and it's something that's comparable to the Pentair system. But straight-wise, if you're not using a salt system, Pentair probably would be the better choice because they have better, in my opinion, better filters, but the salt cell is not as good as Jandy. So you see how difficult this can be when you're doing something like this because there are some components that are better than others made by the manufacturer, and you can't just base it solely on the variable speed pump, in my opinion. If you're doing a whole new pad, you have to base it on the overall equipment. I think the Jandy Aqualink system is really well established, really free of bugs and issues, and it's a great automated system. But all the Pentair systems are just as good. Easy Touch, IntelliTouch, and then their new IntelliCenter are all great automated systems as well. I think I'll transition briefly here and talk about the third-party or off-market variable speed pumps. And this may be a great choice for you, and this is, again, another circumstance-dependent choice. If you're on a budget, and if you don't have automation, and you're not planning on having any automation, and you just want something reliable to replace your single speed pump, then I think is something to look at. The off-brand pumps, there's a lot of them out there now. There's a ton of them on Amazon. Home Depot sells like the Black & Decker, and it's the same exact pump that's made by Circuit Pool. And if I'm not mistaken, the Black & Decker and the Circuit Pool VS pump will fit directly in where the Pentair Whisperflow pump was, so you don't have to do any replumbing, or if any replumbing is necessary, it's really minor. You're just taking off unions or maybe putting on a new threaded fitting. But keep that in mind as well. If you're going to go with a different pump than you have currently, if you have a single speed pump you're upgrading, really installation is something you have to also consider. Where does the front of the pump line up with your current plumbing? Where does the top line up, or the discharge and the inlet, if you want to be more specific or use the technical terms? But you want to make sure that the front and top line up with your plumbing, because replumbing your whole equipment pad to put in a VS pump can be a real headache, especially in California, where there's zero space to begin with, and having to replumb to put that in there would be a problem. In my case, my house is here, and then I have an equipment wall facing out towards the rest of my yard, and believe it or not, all my equipment is back towards the house, and so I don't have a lot of room to put a larger VS pump in. In fact, I have two Jandy Flow Pro pumps, and they go right up against the house with not much room back there. I wouldn't be able to change out the motor on these. I'd have to take the whole pump off in order to change a component. That's how close they are to the house. And this is not uncommon in California, where you have your equipment right up against the wall or the house. So there's no way I can put a Pentair Intelliflo 3 in there or a Hayward TriStar pump because I don't have the room in my existing pad unless I cut out the plumbing all the way down to the ground, maybe 2 feet down, and re-plumb everything. So this is another factor. So of course, get the dimensions of any off-market pump. Like the Aquastar pump is pretty big. And of course, I just did a review on the Mac VS pump, which is pretty small. So there is something to be considered when you're looking at the actual dimensions of the pump. Will it actually fit in the area that you're going to put the pump in? Now I have another pool on my route where the builder put it so tight that the pump inlet and outlet have zero room for any kind of changes. So what I'm saying here is that you couldn't even put a different pump in if you wanted to. You have to go with the same exact pump that's there because there's zero room to replumb it. So consider that when you're getting an off-market pump like the Aquastar VS pump or maybe the Waterway pump or even the Mac VS pump, which I think is a pretty good off-brand pump. You're going to save a lot of money. Like the Black & Decker is, I think, lower than $1,000 just about anywhere you go. And so you're going to save a lot of money, yes, on getting an off-brand pump, but you just can't really think about upgrading in the future to an automated panel and having it have full communication with your system. That's okay for a lot of people. They don't really care to have that kind of communication and controlling it from the app. And if that's you and you want to save money on an off-brand pump, then I think that would be the best choice for you. So you see how this category of best VS pumps is not something that's cut and dry. I will say this though, if you do get a VS pump that's off-brand and you pay $800 or $600 for it, something that's kind of unreasonably low for a variable speed pump, I would say that that's not going to last as long as paying, say, $1,000 for a Pentair Superflow VS. It's something to consider that the lower the budget, the lower the price point, I should say, the lower budget you have, the less reliable that VS pump is going to be in the long run. So you would want to budget at least $1,000 for a decent variable speed pump, in my opinion. Anything less than that is going to be suspect as far as reliability. Anything right around $1,000 or more is going to be a reliable variable speed pump that you're investing in. And just also realize that a variable speed pump will last a lot longer than a single speed pump. They're designed to last much longer. A lot of them are not, if not all of them, are totally enclosed, fan cooled, which means that they are weatherproof as well, or weather resistant, I should say. Nothing is 100% weatherproof, but it will definitely survive everything except a hurricane where you have 3 feet of seawater covering your equipment pad. That's probably not going to survive, and nothing probably will survive that. But in normal circumstances, a big rainstorm, anything that's normal is going to survive no problem. So realize that the extra money you're paying towards a VS pump is going to be paid back to you in the fact that they last longer. You're also going to save a lot of energy costs. Your electricity bill should drop depending on how you set the runtime of the VS pump. And regardless if you get a Hayward pump with the best WEP number or you get a Pentair pump, which doesn't have the greatest energy efficiency, but they're really well made. And again, if you have a Pentair pad, of course, go with the Pentair VS pump. In my opinion, that would be the best VS pump for you. So I'll circle back around to the beginning where I said, and the best variable speed pump for 2024, 2025 is, and again, after listening to this, seeing all the options, understanding your budget, understanding total horsepower needs, because again, if you have a 1 horsepower single speed pump, you can get away with a 1 horsepower variable speed pump or 1.5 horsepower VS pump. You definitely do not need a 3 horsepower total horsepower VS pump or 2.7 total horsepower VS pump. If you have a 1.5 horsepower VS pump now, you can of course get away with a 1.65 or 1.85 total horsepower VS pump, even a 2 horsepower, but you don't need a 2.7 in a lot of cases. It'll save you a lot of money in that cost of the pump if you can go with something that's more comparable to your pool. Now, if you have a 2 horsepower single speed pump, you have water features, you have a waterfall, the equipment is maybe 30 feet away from the pool, then by all means, a 2.7 or 3 horsepower VS pump, like the Pentair Intelliflo 3 VS is great, or the Jandy Speedset 2.7 is also a great choice. You won't really need a 3 horsepower total horsepower VS pump if you have a 1 horsepower single speed pump now. It's overkill. It's nothing that you really need to invest in. But if you do want the best and you have no budget and you're looking for just the best pump, you don't care about installation or changing out the equipment or having unmatched equipment. If you have a Jandy Aqualink and you want to put in an Intelliflo 3 VS, you can do it, but I would say that you're better off getting the Jandy Flow Pro Speedset in that case. It'll directly communicate with the Aqualink system, and you really won't be utilizing the screen on the Pentair VS3 if you have it connected to the Aqualink. So to me, again, matching existing equipment is the key, I think, to picking the best VS pump. They're all really reliable. Even the off-brands are really fairly reliable. And the name brands, Pentair, Jandy, and Hayward, are extremely reliable. So you can't go wrong really picking a VS pump. Unless, of course, again, as I mentioned earlier, you get something for $500 or $600, because you kind of get what you pay for, and you're not going to get the same longevity out of a cheap, low-priced VS pump as you're going to get out of a standard VS pump from a major manufacturer. And last, I'll close with this. If you have a pump and you like it and it's running well and you want a VS pump, you can, of course, get a Nidec or Century e-pump and put it on the back, replace the motor only. They have the square and round flange VS motors that you can put on the back of just about any pump, wet end. If you have a Pentair Whisper Flow or a Jandy or Hayward, you can just swap out that motor that died with one of these motors, VS motors that can go on the back of the existing pump without changing out the entire pump. So Nidec and Century make these replaceable VS motors that go on the back of the existing pumps, and that may be an option that saves you a lot of money. And to me, they're fairly reliable. I would say they're probably nowhere near as good as getting a standard VS pump, but it's going to save you a lot of money, and it's going to do what needs to be done for your budget needs. And if you are going to spend $500 or $600, one of these is a perfect option for you versus buying one of those kind of cheap, no-name VS pumps, complete pumps, where you can just buy the VS motor and put it on your existing pump that's there, take off the old single-speed motor, and put one of these on and save a lot of money in the long run. If you're looking for other podcasts I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon, and there'll be a drop-down menu of over 1,500 podcasts here to listen to. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app.